Michigan Soccer Central.
Hello, listener, and thank you for pressing play on the latest edition of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast, your weekly dip into the world's game being played right here in the Great Lakes State. How's it going? My name's Robert Kerr, your host of the program as always. We're on the recording on the 10th of October. The high school boys season is wrapping up, the end of the regular season, and districts, the first round of postseason play coming up here soon. So this week's episode has two high school based guests, but it's been a big weekend. Fallout continues from the Yates report. A little bit of conversation now about that on the show last week with Grand Valley State University's head coach, Katie Hulteen. That was a great episode. Listen to that. Go back in the feed if you haven't listened to that. When we talked to Coach Hulteen, her team was on the way. They had won 6 in a row and were heading up north to face Northern and Michigan Tech. They got their 7th win on the trot, but were then held to a draw on the second game of their 2-game trip to the north. So they're still unbeaten in 8, but their winning streak was ended at 7. Looking ahead, there's a interesting week ahead. Detroit City FC, they fell away on the road, but due to other results, their last game on Saturday night is at home, and they could still yet clinch a home playoff berth if they get a victory in Hamtramck on Saturday afternoon and get some results elsewhere. Want to give a shout out and a heads up to anyone not paying attention to the U17 girls world. Michigan's own Amalia Villarreal is on the women's World Cup roster, which begins on the 11th. They play the hosts India. So Michigan's own Amalia Villarreal and her U17 American teammates will face India on the 11th, Brazil on the 14th, and then the 17th, they will face Morocco. So some big things there from Michigander. All the best of luck to the Americans over there in India for the U17 Women's World Cup. For more updates on Michigan soccer, a whole lot of high school updates, as well as collegiate play. All the levels of soccer in the state are in action still, so a lot to keep up with. So visit at MI Soccer Central across all social media platforms to get all of your news and updates. And on this week's episode, we got 2 great feature interviews, and we're going to start off with probably the turnaround story of Michigan high school soccer. We got Nick Suarez from Ypsilanti Community Schools when he took over the team ahead of the 2021 fall season. The program didn't have very many participating players, and in the previous season in 2020, they went absolutely winless, and this year they had an 8-4 record and look to be picking up some steam heading into districts later in the week. So a great conversation on a very different program at Ypsilanti Community. So tune in for that. And then followed by a return visit from Brother Rice head coach Dan Price. So keep it locked in for 2 great interviews here on the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. All right, listener, back here on the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. Very excited for our next segment. We're going to be featuring one of the biggest turnaround stories in Michigan high school soccer this year. Very excited to be joined by a coach who's turned the program from 0-18 to 8-4. Thankful to be joined by Ypsilanti Community Boys Varsity head coach, Mr. Nick Suarez. Thank you for joining us today, Coach.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Robert. I really do appreciate it. You guys take the time to give us some spotlight.
Yes, no doubt. Like I said, one of the turnaround stories of the year. You joined as Ypsilanti soccer coach right ahead of the 2021 season. The program was winless, and from what I understand, there was a lot of mercies and forfeits and whatnot. So when you stepped into the program ahead of the 21 fall season, what did you walk into? How was the job presented to you, and then kind of our journey to where we are now at the end of a really solid season?
Yeah. So going into the situation, that summer, summer 2021, I applied for probably a dozen jobs, interviewed half a dozen, and I was struggling to find a job. And luckily, I saw the position opened up, and I got hired at the 11th hour by our former AD, Lawrence Reeves, and I was just thankful for the position. So I had my previous stint was at Ypsilanti Arbor Prep. I spent 2 seasons there from 2015 to 2017. So I was familiar with the community. And for me, more or less, uh, I had saw what some previous head coaches were able to do there. Um, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but back in like 2017 and 2018, Ypsilanti actually made a huge run in SEC White, and it was the talk of the town. You know, I heard about some Romanian players, and I heard that they had done really well at the time. Dexter was in the SEC White, and they beat them. They beat Chelsea, and it was one of those things that I wanted to, emulate that success. So going into the situation at tryouts, we only had like 7 or 8 players there at the time, and Coach Gio, the former head coach, I was lucky to inherit some really really talented players, um, who are now seniors. Senior Mustafa Mahmood. We had one player who had graduated, Gabe Downs, Dion Spiller Juniors. They're really quality players. So a lot of them play like Dion. He plays at he's an gold Wolves player, almost on the cusp of making that MLS next team. Mustafa Moody plays for DCSE West. He's on the Rouge team. So quality players all around. So the biggest thing was, how do we get more players through our program? So um, my big thing was, my first language is Spanish, and I know there's a big Hispanic community, primarily Central Americans. So we had a lot of Hondurans, a lot of players from El Salvador. I knew they were there, but traditionally they're not trying out due to a lot of parents are skeptical. So I want to be like a liaison for the Hispanic community to be able to ensure them, hey, because a lot of them deal with, you know, real life problems as far as, deportation, their citizen status. So, sometimes extracurriculars make it complicated for them, and get to and from practice and games. So that was really crucial for me, was how do we get uh, this Latino community involved, and how do we get them playing actively. So yeah, I spent a lot of time in schools. Another big thing for Ypsilanti is that we have some middle colleges that they represent us in athletics. So I spent a lot of time at Y High, WTMC, and ECA, and yeah, it was really really instrumental in getting more players in the program. Year one, we did really well. Really just focused on the varsity team at the time. We didn't have the numbers to field the JV team, and yeah, we finished second in SEC White, which was our best place finish in school history. Uh, and I think kind of went under the radar. It's tough too, because in Ypsilanti we don't get a lot of media coverage. So I'm really thankful for you and Dan and giving us opportunity. But yeah, so it was one of those things that M Live's not knocking at our door, NW News, Ypsilanti Courier, they're not asking for stories, and so we weren't really getting the attention that we maybe deserved or whatever. But yeah, we finished that second in SEC White, first time in school history beating Chelsea. At the time, it was still Coach Mario, who's now I think at U of M Women's as an assistant. So that was really really cool. And then in the last game of the season, we uh, we lost to Pinckney, who has now won back-to-back SEC White League titles. Coach Grace has done a phenomenal job with that team, and so yeah, we came close, and we were a dark horse this season to to try to win it again. But um, unfortunately, you know, at Ypsilanti it's a little different when it comes to you know, young student athletes. A lot of times have a challenge of the the work life, social life balance, and you know, athletics sometimes gets put on the back burner. And these young men, uh, when they have to start working earlier, um, it's a different demographic. They don't have the luxuries of playing sometimes club soccer and having the financial backing of you know a stable, a lot of single family homes. So it makes it challenging at times. So these young men, they have to go out and work. And when they start making some money, they realize that, hey, I don't really care about soccer too much. So unfortunately, we lost we should have a bigger senior class. So at the beginning of the season, we probably had about 12 seniors. Now we're just down to about five who really saw it the whole season. And two were the biggest ones were the Romanians, Alex Garrison and Jeremy Popa. Unfortunately, we uh, we didn't have them for the season. They were a big factor. Patrick Victoria, also another senior starting center back that we lost. So it was really a young core. This over the summer, I spent a lot of time recruiting freshmen. Our class of 26, we have a lot of freshmen. One in particular is who's just a star. I really, really were fortunate with him. So I had a few coaches from Tigers reach out and were like, "Hey, I don't know if you know Leron Groisman, but he's a stud. Like the kid can ball." And that was one of our biggest acquisitions was him. Leron was a starter. I think the only freshman in all of the SEC, red or white, to have as much playing time as he did as a starter. I mean, over the course of 18 games, probably played about 1,500 minutes. So, one that we really leaned on and came up big when we needed him. We have our SEC coaches meeting tomorrow, so fingers crossed. Hopefully, we can get maybe an honorable mention or something. But Leron's just an absolute star, and him playing at a high level so young. I was worried about getting him, acclimated and how much pressure that brings, but he just thrives in those situations. So yeah, Leron's a big addition to the team. We have a really young core. So moving forward, like we said, we're only tonight's our senior night. We only have five seniors in our program graduating, so looking to make another run next year for sure.
You said at the beginning of last year, you only had 7 come out to tryouts, and you had a couple key pieces. And then you said you spent a lot of time at the community colleges. Was that what you said to try to get players out?
Yeah, so the middle colleges, we're really fortunate. So ECA is at Eastern Michigan. That's a 5-year program. We have WTMC, which is at Washtenaw Community College, and then we also have Y High, which is Y High is more of a traditional high school, um, but it's very diverse and right down the road from us. So it's really the majority of it's that we pull from our student athlete base is from Y High, which is really a luxury. At Y High, they student athletes have the option to represent school choice wherever they want. A lot of them go to Skyline or Saline, um, Pio, Huron, whatever. Um, but I've been able to see because COVID really hit Ypsilanti hard. We used to be traditionally speaking or historically speaking, we were a D1 school. Enrollment went down during COVID tremendously. We were about 600 students, and I've been able to see an influx. Now we're on the cusp of D1, D2. We're about 1,000 students. That's including the YI students. So yeah, we I would say about half our program is from YI.
So Ypsilanti community. So it's like kind of a collection of all those different schools.
Yeah. So in Ypsilanti, where we get the community part, I get asked this a lot. So we were Ypsilanti High School, and then I think it was 2014, maybe a little bit 2012, 2014, right around there. Um, we consolidated with Willow Run. So Willow Run was on high school by the airport, and that school closed. Willow Run closed, and we became Ypsilanti Community because we used to be called the Braves. So we were the Ypsilanti Braves, and for some time there, we were the Phoenix. For, I think for like a year or two, and then we changed our school colors entirely because we used to be purple and yellow, and now we're uh, the like you see the black and gold, Vegas gold, and we're the Grizzlies now. But a lot of alumni, it's they still go by the Braves, and but they're proud to be Grizzlies, and it's cool because my wife and I we were at Ichiban steakhouse, Japanese steakhouse, and it honestly was still kind of like starstruck or whatever. It was more or less I was sitting in there having the experience, and this older alumni, he said, "Aren't you the soccer coach guy?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." It was kind of cool just had being in town and people recognizing me and stuff. So it was one of those experiences. Pretty cool.
And so, what do you think was key to being able to get more players out? How many came to? You said 7 or 8 in the first year. How many came out this last year?
So the first year one, our program was about 24 guys or so. Last year we graduated 5 seniors, and then this year between varsity JV and middle school, we're about 80 players. And the biggest thing for me, like I said, was being able to get. We have a lot. We have a Ypsilanti has a one of the biggest English to secondary learning programs. So we have a lot of refugees. We have refugees from anywhere in Middle Eastern countries. We have players from Yemen, Syria. We have players from Tanzania, Gambia, Ethiopia, Congo, you name it. And then we have players that come out from Central American countries like Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua. So yeah, we don't really have too many South Americans, but more or less, like I said, it's those Central American, Middle Eastern, and African countries. And with that being said, like I said, I build relationships within the school and the teachers, and that was their biggest thing was how do we get these kids excited?
So your team is essentially like lots of first generation. So what do you think it was that you were able to do to garner the trust to have these kids spend uh, all this time that they could be doing, like you said, they have maybe some real world issues or work they have to do. What do you think that you did to gather that trust to make their time seem valuable in the soccer program?
So for me, like I start for the program more or less, it gave those student athletes, something to look forward to. I think the classroom sizes are pretty big in the English secondary learning programs. So what happens a lot of times is these teachers, they reached out and they said, how do we keep these student athletes occupied? And soccer, they all of them. There's so many players. There's over 16 players right away that were interested in playing soccer, from the middle school level all the way up to the high school level. So now, more or less, it gives them because a lot of them are struggling academically, struggling with attendance, struggling with actually, being disciplined enough to sit for 7 hours a day in a classroom setting. So, once when they were integrated in a soccer program, you know, you saw that discipline level go up. You saw them get excited about school, because a lot of times they were missing school, so it gave them a reason to come to school and try to do well. So for us, it goes hand in hand, you know. Um, but yeah, we were really fortunate for the, like I said, 2 dozen players that we have from YCHS that actually that come from all over the parts of the world. So a lot of these guys, they've been here for 6 months. Like, I kid you not. It's crazy that like we have a freshman. His name is Jose Hernandez, and he's been here since the summertime, and he's from Honduras.
That's great. So you gave them the reason, maybe some kids that didn't see the value or didn't have necessarily the time to do that. But if you saw kind of a reap what you sow sort of a situation, if you put the time in and you're great and work hard, you'll be able to be in this program that after school.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was and it's every day there's more another student. I get so many emails from my athletic department like, hey, we have a new student that's interested in playing soccer, and that number continues to grow. We're to the point where probably need to field a JVB team, next season, just because we have so many numbers and it's continuing to grow. And um, we're really fortunate in that regard because you hear of a lot of historically. I always get this all the time. So we get I'll get parents, coaches, referees that would just tell me like, oh, Ypsilanti used to be a doormat, or you guys weren't very good, and you really turned things around, and that's a huge compliment. Um, because the SEC is so competitive, whether you're in the red or white, to where like how do we bridge this gap between us and the Ann Arbor schools? Because that's you look at it and it's Huron. I was talking to Coach Gomez, and he had over 80 players try out. Chris Morgan at Skyline. They got over 100 kids come out. So you look at this and you know, the players are there. It's just more or less having a coach that gets in there, gets excited for them. And that language barrier was huge. We have, you know, I'm actively looking for, I think, an assistant coach that can speak Arabic because there's so many players that speak Arabic, and I'm fortunate to speak Spanish, so it makes it easier, but it's like even at halftime or pre-game talks, I got to say everything in Spanish first, and then I got to say everything in English. It's one of those things because we have, like I said, these players, they come here, they don't speak a lick of English. So, that's one of the biggest hurdles. Our back line is, is all made up of Hispanic players. So our captain, Luis Figueroa, he really does a good job of translating, communicating, and letting them know. So that's one of the things too. Is like we have that's one of our heard a lot of programs don't have to deal with stuff like that. We have like I said, very culturally diverse team. But to your point, yeah, like we're definitely looking to bridge that gap between us and the other SEC, even the red schools, because a lot of time they they treat the SEC white like we're the EFL, like we're the English Championship League, like because that's the really the league that everyone looks at as SEC red, with it being so competitive with all those top tier teams. But next season I'm gonna do a couple more crossover games, and just to test the team where we're at and see. But I think that gap is closer than a lot of coaches programs think. I think we're almost there. Um, but yeah, we're looking to really compete in districts this year. We our district draw traditionally we were in district I think 23. So with the likes of like Mason, Pinckney, Chelsea, but now we're in district 21. So on Wednesday we'll start off in the first round against Carlton Airport, and then the winner of that game will play Riverview. So a ranked team for D2. A team I'm very familiar with. In my high school playing days, I graduated from SMCC, so really familiar with with the Huron League and the Downriver League. I'm from Monroe, so like I said, I'm very very familiar with Riverview and what they've been able to accomplish this season. You know, um, but we definitely have work it out for us. But I think it's manageable. I think that a lot of times, they'll go in situations. We don't they don't we're underestimated. I think so. But I know what our team's capable of. Like we play a very attractive style of football, and we're a very composed side. So for us, I hope that they don't take us too lightly. I think hopefully they do a little more research and know that we can play.
That's very exciting to hear that you went from kind of not having enough players to barely kind of filling a team, no JV squad, to now you mentioned that you might need a JVB, and your first team you're thinking about testing yourself in the red with some crossover games, and the fact that you're thinking that progression. And that's great to hear that you're also getting recognized. You said that you're getting some emails from parents and administrators about the turnaround.
Yeah, refs, all the time, every single day. Like I said, they they people always say, "I love what you've done with the program." You know, they look good, they look competitive, and you know, we won some. It's like I said, there's only 6 teams in SEC White with us, Adrian, Tecumseh, Jackson, Chelsea, and Pinckney, and they're every team is comes out to play. Like last week, we suffered a tough loss to Tecumseh, and that's my first time losing to Tecumseh since I've been at the program. But like that's how it is. They're just teams. Jackson, they gave us a run for money. Adrian did. Pinckney really ran away with the league this year. They went 10-0 and handled the business. But that senior class, that was this has been their last 2 years been their time. But it's just one of those things. You just never know. Like we kept Chelsea at bay this year. We at our place we tied them 0-0. I thought we were the better team. Coach Tom's, he's got a really good side, and it's unfortunate we couldn't get the ball in the back of net, but it's just how the nature of the league. It's just I think one of the toughest outside the KLAA, and it's just that Downriver League, some really good leagues, but SEC White, I think a lot of times goes on the radar. Like I said, I think the red kind of outshines us at times, but every team in our league is very competitive.
Going back to your note about some of the on top of some of the difficulties you said about the construction of your team, or just added layers where you said your back line all speak Spanish, but then there's English speakers and then Arabic speakers. But that almost speaks to the beauty of the game of soccer or football. That while probably there's some difficulties communicating, there is the baseline of the game that is universal.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So we even have players that speak Swahili, French. I mean, really, you name it. But yeah, you know, it's the beauty of it. People understand nonverbal cues, and it's it's like you said, universal, and the guys, you know, play to each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we spend a lot of time in the off season, so like they really become like a well-oiled train, and they just keep on pushing, and I'm really happy with the progress we'll make. I think it was heart wrenching in the sense that we probably wanted to win more SEC games this year, some more conference games. Um, we uh, we had a target and a goal set in mind. Like I said, that we think really wanted to try to win the league this year, but it just wasn't our time. But at the end of the season, I think we've only won 3 or 4 conference games, but where it should have been probably a little more higher in the table, a couple more points. But it's just how it falls sometimes. Like I think a lot of times I like to compare it to Jurgen Klopp's side, and where Liverpool stands in the table currently, and even with all the depth they have, it's just one of those things you look at. You can have a great team on paper, but sometimes it doesn't necessarily translate to the results you want. And I think that at the end of the season, you know, we were just really happy to have played at a high level, and unfortunately, like it's just how it goes. Sometimes you can't get the ball in the net, but we had great opportunities, some great memories, you know, and I think that it's not over in that regard. Like I think my seniors, they really want to end on a historic note. So that I think that, and I believe that we could really try to make a push this postseason. I think that that's where everyone put their that's what after conceding league titles, Pinckney won it pretty early in the season. They didn't drop any points. I mean, Coach Gray's did stellar side and they did everything right, and I think that's where the energy shift and where now, 3 days away from first round districts, and we're locked in, and we're hoping to really try to make a push in the postseason.
Yeah, your team, it seems like there's a lot of room to optimism. You said that you wish you maybe won some more regular season in conference games, but you have some seniors that really sound determined to make a mark. And then some of the most competitive freshmen. You said you have freshmen that played more minutes than anyone else. So it seems like there's a bright future. Do you think your team is on the upswing of form heading into this postseason?
Yeah, we one of our biggest hurdles and obstacles we had to overcome was uh, our goalkeeping. You know, so we were really fortunate to find Stefan Rubaguga. Stefan is from Tanzania, so he was a defender, and I had never known that he also played keeper at times, and he stepped right in, and he actually embraced the role. Finds out he ends up loving it, so that's something we found out late in the season. So we're really fortunate for Stefan. Um, he's just been stellar back there, and kind of solidified the team a little bit, because that was one of our biggest hurdles. Was challenges was we had a freshman keeper, and then our starting keeper from last year, he got hurt, early on in the season, and we had a freshman keeper, and there's just a lot of pressure to put on, you know, a goalkeeper, and you could tell that, we're not a team to kind of point fingers and blame others, but you can sense that in the locker room is, you know, we're looking for a solution, a more long term solution, and then it was right underneath our noses. We didn't know that Stefan. Sometimes, like I said, the language barrier thing. We didn't know he hadn't communicated to us that he played goalkeeper, and he stepped in one game, and right away we knew, like, wow, this is the the solution to all our problems. So yeah, well, that was one of the biggest additions, and going into the postseason, I think the team feels more confident in that regard, knowing that problem has been solved, and I think more or less, like, we kind of struggled. There was a lot of pressure on Mustafa, our senior captain, to score goals, and we've been able to alleviate that. We have a German exchange student. His name's Philip Kallmeyer. So Philip, he's a sophomore, and he came in, and that was a blessing halfway through the season, you know. And he was a field hockey player, and coming to America to try something new. Have very little soccer background, but I think in Germany they play so regularly, even in it's backyard football or foosball. They he was good enough to slot right in to the starting 11, and he's been able to help Mustafa in that regard with some really clutch goals. He had two against Adrian. He had a big one uh, against Tecumseh last week. So in those clutch moments when the pressure's on, he can score goals. So that's, yeah, absolutely. I think we're on the postseason, um, flying high. So we're excited.
Wow, it seemed what a roller coaster of a season it seems like, as far as an ever changing roster. You said some guys left to work, and then you had an injury to your goalkeeper, but you also had a surprise stud goaltender step up that you weren't expecting, as well as an exchange student come in. So quite a ride for your lineup there at Ypsilanti, and uh, moving forward into the postseason. I hope you all the best, and really, Coach Nick Suarez, thank you so much for all of your time to spend with us here on the Michigan Soccer Central podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Robert. Thank you again.
Yes, all the best moving forward.
Take care.
Welcome back, listeners, here on the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. We now turn to the top of the Michigan high school boys soccer, as we are at the end of the regular season, looking ahead to the playoffs on the road to the state championships. And with me is fourth-year Brother Rice head coach Danny Price. Welcome to Michigan Soccer Central, or welcome back, rather, Coach Price.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Robert. Appreciate it. It's I really enjoyed the last one that we did. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, fourth season at the helm of Brother Rice. You just finished your regular season with a record of 9-3-1. Um, how does at this vantage point in between the regular season and then kind of waiting to see who you draw in the playoffs here? What do you think of your season at this point?
It's been good. I think going into the playoffs last year, we were at I think we were 500. I think 4-4-4. I think going into the season last year. So I mean, during the regular season this year, we've obviously made some significant improvements. So, but I don't think we've peaked yet. I don't think we've actually seen our best soccer. It's been there in moments, but I don't think we've actually seen our best soccer at this moment in time in the season. So last year we kind of saved everything for the playoffs, but this year it's been positive. It's been good. I don't think you've seen the best from us yet.
Yeah, last year you said it was around 500, and then you end up going to become a state championship finalist after winning the districts and the regional. So I guess I was going to ask about the composition of your team. Do you have a lot of returners from that side?
Yeah, so we graduated 9 seniors from last year. Two of those seniors had quite a big impact on the team. We had a couple of kids that were non-starters. So we were relatively young last year. We had a couple of seniors that started, and most of the team from there on out was junior and sophomore heavy. So we were quite young. Everybody from that junior class return this year, which was really nice. And then we picked up some really, really, really talented kids that came in on transfers, and our freshman class grew exponentially. If you look at our JV team this year, they've made some significant improvements as well. So the future for the next 4 years is going to be really bright.
In your fourth year at Brother Rice, has there been any players that have been with you for 4 of the years?
Yeah, they have. It's kind of an emotional one this year for me. I think just obviously it's my fourth year, so it's taking over from Barry Brodsky 4 years ago. This is kind of like my first kind of 4 years run with 4 or 5 players that came through that class. So Henry Allen, our starting goalkeeper, Joe Brook, Liam Hemming, and several others, to name a few that came through in that class. Phil Chumnecki, the captain, who was instrumental in our run last year and scored the winner in the state semi-final from the penalty spot. He's been with me for 4 years as well. So to see them grow over the last 4 years coming into this year, and then hopefully making another run at it will be really nice.
Is that one of the most rewarding parts as being a coach in the youth realm, is seeing those incremental improvements and then kind of seeing where they were when you first met them and where they are now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you always want to see players grow, personally and professionally in what they're doing, on the field. It's been great to have, growth, for them as individuals, and just watching them go through the academic cycle as well. I think we're so, that the school is so profoundly, well known for its academics as well as its athletics, and watching them grow in academia as well. Some of these kids are going to some great schools, because of what they've done in the classroom, not only what they've done on the pitch as well, but seeing them growing from boys at 15, to now men at 18 years old, it's been quite a remarkable turnaround, and nice to finally see them off in a way.
So, kind of at a reflective state of the season, what were some of the highlights and then some of the tougher times of the regular season so far?
I think some of the tougher times was, we talk about consistency a lot. We talk about consistency and performance, and I don't like I said to you before earlier, I don't think it's kind of come together for us yet in a grand way. We're still seeing moments in games where we look like the team that that everybody expects us to be. We're not really a traditional high school team. We're quite a very, very talented group of players that move the ball back to front. We build from the back and, make the game look easy on the eye, so to speak. But it's been there in moments. So the difficult part for me as a coach is not to see that consistency. We just recently played Warren de La Salle away in our kind of like our cumulative game in the Catholic League. And it was the first time all season that they've put together an 80-minute performance, in terms of our principles and style of play, which was really nice to see. Difficult moments with the two CC games, during the regular Catholic season. They're a great team with a great coach, and obviously they're setting standards in Division 1 right now. And those are two difficult games because the first one at home was kind of a, the second half got away from us. I made some decisions, tactically, that weren't the best decisions to make as a coach. And you always go through those moments where you take a chance and you make changes thinking you can get back into the game, and it doesn't go your way. And we got opened up. But the game away at CC, we were absolutely fantastic. The game plan was working to a T, and we actually went 1-0 up. But some officiating decisions actually changed the course of that dynamic in the game. So it was it was a different one. But no, the positives are there. We've seen the moments. Early on in the season, U of D away was a great performance from us, especially in the second half. Just little moments have made things positive for us. Little moments of play. So I'm happy with that.
Kind of looking forward to the playoffs here. So I understand you're a first round bye, and so what are some of the teams that you might be facing here in your first round of participation in the playoffs?
Yeah, so we got a bye this week. So we play in the district semifinal next Tuesday at 5:00, and we will play the winner of Avondale High School and Waterford Kettering, who are the host school for not only districts actually, but for regionals as well, our region. So, it's going to be a familiar place for us, hopefully over the next, 2-3 weeks. And then the other side of the bracket is Cranbrook, Orchard Lane, St. Mary's, Pontiac, and Madison Heights, Lanphier. So, all opponents that we kind of knew and played last year in districts, so we know them quite well. But yeah, we'll end up playing the winner of Avondale and Waterford Kettering.
Obviously, you referenced the Catholic Central and how they're really leading the way and setting the standard. Have there been any teams that have been a surprise in the Catholic League?
It's such a difficult league. Obviously I'm quite new to high school soccer in the sense that, I've only been in it for 4 years, but, Kevin Tuitt and, Thaya Mukhtar and Jean have been in it, for a lot longer than I have. And I've always said that, the Catholic League is the hardest league conference to play in across the state. It's not only bruising on the players, but it's also very emotional because you want to beat your Catholic rivals, so it's quite a difficult league to play in. I wouldn't say surprised, probably the norm more than anything else. Very, very taxing games. The style of play from our opponents has not really changed. I was quite surprised. Obviously Catholic Central, they graduated quite a lot of boys last year. I wasn't sure of the quality that they would have left over, this year, but, with Kyle coming back and Ali Jaffa, they're just great players to play against. So, they were positive, and, when they're on, they're just difficult to stop. So, that was surprising, especially in the first game, normal for the most part,
I forgive my naivete with how the playoff structure works, but is there a possibility of you, or at what stage, if things go your way in these opening rounds, is it possible to have another clash with Catholic Central?
No, because Catholic Central Division 1, we're Division 2. And we potentially on a collision course with Warren de La Salle again. If you look into the later rounds, especially when you get to regionals, we both have a bye in our district, and then they will meet in the semifinals with their other opponent. So they've got 2 more games to get through before the regional semifinal. But we will potentially meet in the semifinal if we both win our district. So that's a clash again. A little bit of emotion, but you look at the way that you performed last year in the playoffs, and I think one of the things that that our guys can rely on a lot is experience. They've been in big games. This group of players have been in big Catholic League games now for 4 years. They were in big district games, big regional finals last year, and a state final where they narrowly got beat 2-1 by Grand Rapids Christian, and were absolutely phenomenal in the second half, and really should have got back on terms in that final. So they've got a lot of experience. They can deal with these types of games now. And if the playoffs are anything to go by, it's where we thrive the most. I think if you ask any high school athletic soccer player or any high school player that's playing any sports under the lights in the cold in October, November, it's the best time to play. So our lads generally show up and play for those games. So I'm looking forward to that.
So if things go the right way, how many playoff games will you have to win to get to that state final?
So we'll have the district semifinal and final, and then the regional semifinal and final, and the state semi. So 5 games to get, 5 more games of the season to get to the state final on November 5th. So we're ready. I think we're ready. We're actually in a really good point at this moment in time. With the fact that we've had that bye week, and we've got a little bit of time off. We ended the season with, unfortunately, one season-ending injury to an ACL tear, Jackson Yankel, which was a blow. Such a great kid, wonderful family, and he's actually going to play at Northwood University next year. So I'm hoping that after his surgery this week, that he can get himself fit and able to play next year, because he's a credit to his mom and dad, and a credit to himself and how hard he works. But other than that, we're pretty set. We don't have any major injuries, so we've got a lot of returning guys. So hopefully we're at full strength going into districts.
With the way that the season is structured, with there's largely like two games a week, and there's one game, and then you'll have another game in a couple of days, and here you have a bye week, which is probably one of the longest layoffs you've had since the season started at the end of August. So kind of how do you balance training in this time where you have an extended break in the context of the high school season?
Try and replace everything. I think you're used to 2 games a week, so we gave them a little bit of time off last week, and they're coming in this week to do some fitness work and and keep the clock ticking over, so to speak. But you try and replace it. So fortunately we've got a large enough roster where we can have intra varsity scrimmages so that we can replace a game. So we can have an 80-minute game ourselves on the Tuesday and Thursday of that week and kind of replace it. So it's they're still keeping their game fitness as well as their overall fitness, but it's just tweaking things at this point. I mean, we're not really going to do anything new we are who we are. We have a good style of play. We have a good system. It's just fine tuning some details, really, to be honest with you. It's not, there's not a lot of change. It's just fine tuning the set pieces, fine tuning the way that we play, a little bit more consistency in front of goal. And, we'll see where we go from there. But, it's business as usual. We'll be ready for next Tuesday.
Kind of more of a personal coaching question. You said that you're somewhat new, 4th year in the high school coaching world, but you're an experienced coaching otherwise. How does coaching a high school team different from the club stuff you've done previously?
It's different because you see them every day. You're with them every day for 3 months, pretty much. 6 days a week. It's usually the typical norm for us. Monday through Saturday, with obviously the Sundays, with us being a Catholic school, is off for church and a holy day. But just the day-to-day management of the players. You really putting together a schedule of periodization of when they can actually train, and what day is a game day and what day is a recovery day. That type of stuff. So there's just a lot more details that go into it when you've got a group of players for 6 days a week. It's almost like a college schedule in a way. Really, to be honest with you. So, but it's good. You get to know the players on a deeper level, working with them 6 days a week, habits, training habits, moods, performances, all that type of stuff. So you tend to get quite close to them, and you're delving more into the personal details of helping them through school and, academia and all that sort of stuff. Whereas with club, you're only seeing them 2 or 3 days a week. But the quality is just absolutely fantastic at club. It's great, so, you kind of get the best of both worlds, really, being a high school coach and a club coach.
And so are you doing that both at the same time now currently?
Yeah, I'm working, continuing to work with Liverpool, as director of operations, and I'm coaching 2 of our ECNL girls teams as well as one of our pre-ECNL girls teams. So a little bit different, going from high school boys into the female realm at the ECNL level. But our ECNL program is thriving right now, and it's headed up by Demir Mutfari and Andy Wagstaff, Morris Lupinick, who are just wonderful coaches and great mentors to me. So we're doing very well in that landscape at this moment in time. Our ECNL program is thriving, so it's very, very enjoyable to go from high school training at 3 o'clock to 4:30 and then jump into club. I kind of get the best of both worlds. In the game that I love, it doesn't really feel like a job. It's more of I get paid to do a hobby, so it's wonderful,
Well, Coach Denny Price, with that jam-packed schedule of coaching teams left and right, as far as Brother Rice, good luck and all the best to you as you proceed into the 2022 Michigan High School State Playoffs.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Hopefully we're lifting a trophy so you can post it on your Instagram pages.
Sure thing. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Robert. Take care.
Almost through with this episode of the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. Thank you for tuning all the way through, listener. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to my guest, Denny Price, and Coach Nick Suarez, a couple of excellent high school coaches and very different programs, but both excellent stories. Really enjoyed those. And thank you to all the guests that have joined me here on the Michigan Soccer Central podcast. We've got a handful of episodes on the YouTube channel, and compared to the other platforms, not so followed is Michigan Soccer Central. So be sure to follow and subscribe to the Michigan Soccer Central YouTube channel. And then go back through the last 70 episodes or so. There's a little bit of everything: interviews with players, coaches, media members, administrators, and owners. So go back through the Spotify audio playlist. All of our episodes are up there. So a big week ahead, and I hope all the best for all of the teams. And thank you to Jenny Hajnaki for editing the program as always. Thank you to the Michigan Soccer Central core team for helping me put all this together and making MSC what it is. And I got a busy weekend ahead myself. In addition to all my youth soccer duties, I'm also going to be on commentary for the Michigan State Cup. The finals are happening this weekend at the Legacy Center out there in Brighton. So hopefully my voice will still be intact come this time next week. So I'm very excited to do that. But whichever way your soccer interests take you, until next time, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.
Michigan Soccer Central.